earlier, things did not go well. Uh, we had some technical difficulties. We had to back out and try to start over again. But we're here now, and we're going to figure this shit out, and it's going to be better for the rest of the time, okay? I promise we are going to fix this if it kills us. It's that important. We want to be at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. And that's what we're going to do here. We are going to talk about the Thanksgiving Day game that the Dallas Cowboys just played against the Washington Redskins. We're going to talk about some other things as well. First, I wanted to talk about Patrick not liking Krispy Kreme and not watching the LSU Texas A&M game. That's like in the Dilly Dilly commercials where the king puts the dude's head in the thing. Yeah, that's what I want to do to Pat right now because he doesn't like fresh donuts and he didn't watch one of the best college football games I've ever seen.
Well, to be fair, I kind of got out of
Everybody that is on
football.
everyone that is on Facebook now with us, hello, hello, hello to deconstructing Dallas.
Yeah, so you're right. I'm not a huge Texas A&M game for one very important reason. My boys at Tech lost to Baylor, got their head coach fired, so I was not in the football mood for the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense, but because of it, you missed one of the best games I've ever seen. The overtime period was phenomenal. Now, people will talk about the defense, but those teams were tired. I mean, we just have to be honest about that. There's not much that those guys are going to be able to do.
What was that? 17 overtimes.
Seven, and there was about zero defense played in that. But let's get to the Dallas Cowboys. They played on Thanksgiving. They played the Washington Redskins. How do you feel about that? What do you feel about the game? What were your
You know,
takeaways?
takeaway. Look, we could talk about the first half first. I was, when I'm watching that game and going into halftime at 10-7. Dak Prescott was not very good in the first half at
No, it
all. I
was
mean,
not.
at times it felt like he was trying to skip rocks across a lake. That's when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, he's skipping rocks out here." That they couldn't protect Dak. Not that he was helping himself. There are a couple of those sacks I think he really ran into. He's got to show the ability to climb the pocket. That's a big thing for him. But, hats off to him. They came out in the second half. Dak does not get sacked. And can we just applaud Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones for making that move for Amari Cooper? Because holy cow. When you have two touchdown catches for, what was that, 130 yards combined? 40 and 90? I mean, he's every bit that they thought they were getting when they gave up a first-round pick.
Yeah, and it's looking to be a good pick at this point. I mean, let's just be honest about it. The offense is complete, and that's something that we're going to get into in a little bit here, but the offense looks almost completely different. I mean, obviously, they still go through their spells. They're not going to be a well-oiled machine like the team that we're about to play. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday. But, from this game, what I learned is they're not crushed when they lose Tyron Smith. They had Cam Fleming come in for him, and he played well. I mean, they gave up some pressures in the first half. He gave up a sack in the first half. I believe he only gave up one, correct?
I want to say it was one.
It might have been another, but there's obviously some of these sacks are, like you said, on Dak not stepping up the pocket, taking too long to throw. But that is one thing that has helped with Amari Cooper coming in is that this team Dak Prescott is quicker with the ball, and we saw that again. I mean, getting that slant out on that, on the first touchdown, I mean, he gets it out of his hands. There was one where he threw to the right side where Amari Cooper wasn't even out of his break yet, and he got rid of the ball, and that's something that we never see from Dak Prescott, and we saw it in this Thanksgiving Day game. So I mean, I was impressed with the way that he played in the second half. Obviously, the first half has got to be better. But that's kind of how this team is rolled. There's halves where they're good and halves where they're not good.
Yeah, and it kind of shows you, especially with Dak and Amari, that there's a trust level there. He trusts that he's going to do those things. And yeah, we can talk about throwing with anticipation, knowing where coverage is going to be. You can talk about that, but if the quarterback does not trust that receiver, then he's not going to throw it. If he doesn't trust that you're going to make that catch, and I kind of feel like watching Dak and Amari play together that he does trust him, because there are certain times where if it was any other receiver, I don't think Dak makes those throws.
Yeah,
I
I agree with that. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big part of it. So but in the second half it was a lot better. I mean there were some times during that game where I start and get really, antsy because the let's going down, was it 13-10.
Mm-hmm. That's when you
Um, you
think
know,
that
it,
that's when you think it's all going downhill because the Cowboys normally don't play well in the third quarter of football games, and they just gave up points to, what I believe is not a very good team at this point with all the injuries they've gone through.
well, no, I mean they have a banged up offensive line. They're playing with their your backup quarterback who's played a handful of games at the last, decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really hasn't played much, especially the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, he played. He came in. He played the game in 2014 when they beat the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. But overall, he's not a guy that should be beating you. And what happened in that second half was the defense finally was able to do what we've been harping on forever: create turnovers. So when you have that, and that helped out a lot. Plus, Amari being Amari.
Yeah, that did help. One thing I did want to bring up is Ezekiel Elliott is now the league leading rusher. And he is second in all-purpose yards behind Todd Gurley. Should he be in the MVP discussion? Because I've seen certain journalists from the Dallas-Fort Worth area try to say that Ezekiel Elliott should be in consideration for the MVP award at this point.
Why not? You talk about a guy who, lead the league, yes, but you got to talk about the last 4 weeks of what Ezekiel Elliott has done. 600 and I think it's 643 combined yards in 4 weeks. I mean, that's impressive no matter who the running back is. And the fact that he did that and he was able to the fact that he was able to get back into the race, because essentially Todd Gurley passed him up and it didn't look like Zeke was going to catch him.
Yeah, it didn't, and he has like you said. I mean, he's really caught up to what Todd Gurley is doing, and has been playing really well. And this offensive line has been playing really well, and that's something that we're gonna get into when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys offense, and that is the difference between having Paul Alexander and having Mark Colombo being the offensive line coach.
Yep, yep. Well, it looks like we're having some issues here, so I am going to hop off real quick, and I will be right back.
All right. So I am still with you, and I am on both sides of the screen now. You can see me from my computer camera, and you can see me from my external camera. So you get both sides of me here. You can also see my dog. She is sleeping in the background in bed. That's her toy over there. But we're going to keep talking about the Dallas Cowboys here because I know that that's what you guys are here for. You're not here for my dog. Is this Dallas Cowboys team different than it was 4 weeks ago? And I think that it's pretty easy to say that it was. Or that it is different. Because 4 weeks ago, they couldn't establish the run. They couldn't do anything well, really. And now they they're able to throw the ball better with Amari Cooper. They're able to run the football pretty much at will at this point. Like Pat was saying, Ezekiel Elliott has absolutely gone off these past couple of weeks. And, because of that, it's pretty interesting to see where this team could possibly go. Because we don't know where it's going to go from at this point. We think that this is a team that is going to be able to win this division in a down year. I mean, it doesn't look like... I mean, the Eagles are definitely still in this thing, and the Redskins are in it, but I don't really believe that the Redskins are actually in it. Cowboys Stats and Graphics here on Twitter saying that it has been 5 minutes of his selective viewing and not a single established the run reference. I just said it. And before I even saw that, I said that they have been able to run the football since the addition of Amari Cooper. And Cowboys Stats and Graphics is a great follow on Twitter. I am not going to give out much free advertising on here, but he is somebody that you absolutely have to follow if you are a Cowboys fan on Twitter. The run and the pass, not a ton of correlation between the two when it comes to EPA, expected points added. But my eyes tell me differently, and my eyes can lie to me. The statistics may be different. He was just at a game, Stats and Graphics was this weekend, where a team got down, but they were about to establish the run. And once they were able to establish the run, they would be able to throw the play-action pass. We just heard Chris Collinsworth say it last night. If you can't establish the run, the play-action will not work. But we've seen it work on teams that can't run the football. So I really don't think that that is an issue for this football team. I think that you're going to be able to do whatever. You're going to be able to run play. They don't run enough play action. But before I get on a big enough rant, I do think that this team is going to win this division. I think that the Redskins and the Eagles are going to split. I think that the Cowboys are going to be able to beat these Eagles next time they play. So that gives them the best division record, and that gives them heads up with the Philadelphia Eagles if anything happens there. I don't think Washington's going to be able to keep this thing going. They're going to go downhill. And we have Pat back now. I don't know if he's been listening, but I'm talking about how different this team has looked the past 4 weeks. I got into a little bit of a rant about things that I don't like about the team, but we want to stay positive. They won 3 in a row. How different is this team now with the addition of Mark Colombo as the offensive line coach and Amari Cooper as wide receiver 1 on this football team, Pat?
Well, they are a completely different team. They're not the same team that went, 3-4 the first 7 weeks, coming off the bye. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. That's a huge thing for them. They won 3 in a row, and what have they done? Well, they changed the blocking scheme. The great thing about this team is I think Mark Colombo and Hudson Houck have done a fantastic job, not only with the guys that they have right now, but the fact that you can plug in a Cam Fleming, you can plug in Xavier Suafilo, and it didn't hurt them like it had in years past. Because in years past, what did you see? You saw, Chaz Green. We saw what he did and Byron Bell did in that Atlanta game, and it just seemed to be, a constant downward spiral after that.
And that's definitely why they went out and got Cam Fleming, right? They got somebody who just started in the Super Bowl and showed that he could be a competent guy. And that was a really big signing. Now, I didn't love the way that he played in the preseason, but I thought that he did well enough in this past game. Now, is well enough going to be good enough in this next game? I don't know, because that Saints defense is very good at defending the run. But they've also been ran against the least amount of attempts that any other team has faced. Now, they only give up 3.6 yards a carry, but like I said, only 224 attempts against them. But, with this team, I think that the nastiness is back with this offensive line. And I think that was something that we were missing under Paul Alexander. And I think that last year they just got out of sync. And they ran out the offensive line coach last season and already ran one out through 8 games this season. So having him come in and seeing the offensive line has been able to do since then, have a little bit of pride in their game. Without 2 of their starters, 3 of their starters if you count Connor Williams, and then Zach Martin being a very hurt player. And that's something that I'm interested to see how Tyron, sounding like he might not be able to go once again this week, but we will see about Zach Martin.
Yeah, I don't think Zach Martin's going to be a question. He's kind of been that guy that even though he had the sprained MCL, he's going to play,
Mm-hmm.
So I've never really sat there and go, oh, I'm worried about, what he's doing. So it's more of a question of Tyron. And do I think he goes this week? I think it's a little bit better than last week. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with it, but for this, like, we got to talk about how different Dak has been. I mean, his numbers in the past 8 games are completely different from before, and the weird part about it is we're not seeing a lot of difference in the things that he does poorly. I mean, he's just getting the ball to receivers, and he's not holding the ball as much, and that's quantifiable. We've seen that in Next Gen Stats, which is something a free reference site that everybody should go and look at if they are a football fan. They have some phenomenal advanced analytics, and one of them is time to throw, and he is still the 3rd slowest person to throw the football, but even though he's the 3rd slowest, the time has gone from well above 3 seconds from time to throw down underneath it to 2.96. And 2 weeks ago, it was around 2.5, which was in the top 3rd of the league. He was a little bit slower this week, but he had a good game, and the offensive line protected for him. So, I mean, there's a give and take with how long he holds the ball. He also scrambles quite a bit and gets outside of the pocket, but we need to talk about Dak Prescott a little bit. There was that Ian Rappaport report on the Sunday news dump in the morning that they're talking about getting Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper extensions after the end of this season, and that they are going to work hard to get it done at the end of this season. Now, Amari Cooper's out of the question. That's obviously going to happen, right? Like, they've seen all they need to see already from Amari Cooper, right?
Oh, yeah. I think you don't give up a number 1 draft pick if he's not in the long-term plans.
Yeah.
I think all along we've known he was going to be in the long-term plans. The big issue right now is going to be that Dak Prescott extension, as you mentioned. I'm not sure I believe that. I mean, there's been so many times that Ian Rappaport has come out and said something, and none of it came to fruition. So I'm not 100%. That whole report, I'm not sure I believe that portion of it.
Hey, I'm still hearing that bad things are on the horizon from Randy Gregory, Jason La Canfora.
I'm still waiting on that video for
Dez.
The Walmart Dez video.
Still waiting for the Walmart Dez video. Yeah, no.
Was that him or Florio?
I don't know who it was for the Dez thing. That was before I was really, keeping a close eye on everything. But with the Dak Prescott extension, I went back. I actually wrote about something for school this past week about this. And I was looking back at, what the projected extension could look like for him. And if you extrapolate his numbers for the first 2 years out, and I actually went through and did it for what he has right now in this season with those two and what his numbers are going to look like at the end of this season. And they were very comparable to what the projections were in this piece that Katie Drummond did for Cowboys Wire back in July about the projected contract. And it was 5 for 145 at $29 million a year. And that was market value because the numbers are about the same for what Seattle Russell Wilson's contract is at the same amount of percentage of the cap. And that's really what's important here because the cap goes up about $10 million every year at this point. And so his was like $21 million or something like that average per year. But it was like the percentage of the cap was a little bit over 13%. That's something that we can see for Dak Prescott. Now, what I don't like is that we might give him 5 for 45 after this year. What are we going to do about the other signings? We have Byron Jones, who needs a contract. We need a lockdown corner. That's obvious. Chidobe Awuzie isn't going to get it done for you as your number one guy. Byron Jones has been phenomenal. Now, number two, if Tank Lawrence is not on this football team next year, I quit. Plain and simple. And then Amari Cooper. So how do you pay all of these guys? Well, you have 3 more years of Dak Prescott if you want to, with 1 year at $700,000 and then 2 more years, one at like 25, somewhere around there, and then one at 31. And it averages out, it ends up being like $59 million over 3 years, which is cheaper than what you would extend him for a short-term extension. And the only reason you would want to give him one for 5 years or longer is if you really believe that he is going to be that franchise guy, to be a guy who is going to carry a football team, because at year 4 and year 5, that deal looks good because it is a lower percentage of the cap than what you would normally see. Patrick has left the call, so I'm going to keep talking about this. Dak Prescott. What I think that the Cowboys should do, what the best option would be, is to just hold out and tell him, listen, we need to see more because you are not, at this point, you're not a So now you can see my screen here. We're going to switch this up and go full screen with my beautiful face because we are still having technical difficulties with Pat. Hopefully we'll be able to get those sorted out eventually. It doesn't look like it is happening right now. So until then, you're just going to look at my beautiful face from one screen, and hopefully it is quick enough. And I do not want to see that at all. So that is going to go away. So it's just me and my dog in the background. Let's see if this has fixed any of the issues we are having with the live stream on Phantom here. I will look at it. I hope it fixed it. Whew. Man, it is slow. I mean, it is still showing him, so it's pretty backed up. But I want to talk about what we can do from here, where we could possibly go from here. I don't think that an extension is something that should be in the cards right now. Dak Prescott with this offense is somebody that you can win with. You absolutely can win with Dak Prescott, but you need other things to be going well. You need the offensive line to play well. He needs to have that confidence, and he said it earlier it just, this past week he said that he wasn't confident. If you don't have somebody who is extremely confident in his own abilities, how do you expect him to lead a team at a high level? How do you expect him to carry a team? Dave Barclay says Cowboys suck. Okay, Dave, that's great. You can say that, but they're 6-5 now, and they are leading the division. I don't know who you're a fan of, but tell me in the comments, because if it's the Saints, I mean, that's just not fair. I mean, the Saints are a good team. Dak definitely still needs to improve on his throwing speed. Yes, he absolutely needs to improve on his throwing speed. And by throwing speed, I assume that you mean how quickly he gets the ball off. Absolutely. He is still, like I said earlier, the third slowest to throw the football in the entire league. So that is something that he obviously has to improve. Let's see if there's any other comments here. Jeremy Knob says he's not consistent enough for a big deal. And that's where I'm at with it right now. He's not consistent, and there are things that I think that he definitely needs to improve before he gets a long-term deal, and that's why I think that you should be able to, that you should just keep him at the $700,000, and then 2 years with the franchise tag at $59 million. Tell him, show me. You'll get all this guaranteed money, and you'll get your big deal after that. Or, after this $700,000 contract is up, if he does really well, then you pay him big-time money. But, in my opinion, he's not a franchise-changing quarterback. And that's an issue. In my opinion, you don't pay guys who aren't absolute franchise quarterbacks. And that's something that my buddy at Cowboys Stats and Graphics would disagree with me, because the passing game is so important to the football team. And it's the one that has the least amount of variables. It's the one that you can keep the same over a long period of time without change. And I understand that, but And before anything happens, I want to see Dak with a new offensive coordinator. I don't give a shit if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year. Scott Linehan should not be the offensive coordinator. I know that this has been a topic on The Fan, especially on the Ben and Skin show. And KT has said, no matter what, I think that Scott Linehan is gone at the end of the season. And he should be, because his offense needs a change. And it doesn't have to be Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, it could be. I'd be okay with that, because you can run the air raid and still run the football. All it would mean is spreading out. And somebody who we all praise, we all hail as gods, are Sean McVay and Andy Reid. And guess who Sean McVay and Andy Reid have gone to in the offseason to learn from? Cliff Kingsbury. Now, I don't expect the guy to be a head coach anytime soon, because I don't think that that's the role he best fits in. I think that he should be an offensive coordinator. I think he'd be a damn good offensive coordinator, because he is going to take what he sees and get the most out of him, out of that team that he can. Now, Amari Cooper got to get the deal. He's a dude. He gets open. And what we're seeing now with that team in California is that quarterback's a train wreck. And that's somebody who I liked previously. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was all an aberration and he really wasn't good the entire time. But he went from, like Dak in 2016, possible MVP candidate, to not being good at all. And now Dak's starting to turn it around, but that situation in Oakland just isn't going to get any better. Now, Jeremy says that he's torn it, that we used the first to get Cooper, but the guy is real. I don't have any questions about that first round pick anymore, because with this draft class, I don't think that we were going to get anybody better in the class to take over for Amari Cooper, especially not right away. I mean, I really like DK Metcalf quite a bit, but DK Metcalf is a project. He's somebody who, a lot of 9 routes, a lot of deep digs. I mean, he was a very one-trick pony at Ole Miss. That's the way that offense is. It's terrible. You have 4 guys, 4 skill position players that are top 100 picks in the draft, and that offense is terrible. And Jordan Ta'amu, who might end up getting drafted, and that offense can't do anything. So, you know, it's tough because you have to just look at the guys, look at the traits, and see what you see in them. And Amari Cooper just gets open, plain and simple. So as long as he is getting open, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to use him because that's what he's the best at. And he helps Dak out. Now, everybody, I'm sorry that the show didn't get much better. I mean, ooh, my dog's awake, though. She's getting up. So, say hello, Luna. Say hello. She's stretching out. No, hopefully we can get the technical difficulties fixed. Hopefully I get all of you with me for the entire show this next time. We will be on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Like I said, hopefully we can get the technical difficulties worked out. If you are in the Dallas area and you see this, head to Knockouts in South Dallas in the Oak Cliff area. It is on Riverside, Riverfront, one of those two, right off of 35 and 30. It is a wild place. It's got a ton of TVs. The atmosphere is crazy. It has a multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars sound system in there. The beer is ice cold, much like